August 6, 1945, 8:15 a.m. Imperial General Headquarters, Tokyo. A single decoded transmission from Hiroshima shattered 3 years of carefully maintained illusions about modern warfare. What Japan's military command read in that message forced them to confront a truth they had denied since the war began. America hadn't been fighting at full strength. They had been holding back. 90 feet below the Imperial Palace, the underground war room was wrapped in 4 feet of reinforced concrete. On that morning, the bunker hummed with the weary rhythm of a losing war. Field Marshal Shinroku Hata's daily briefing had become a ritual of controlled collapse. At exactly 08:15 hours, Lieutenant Colonel Teishi Yamamoto, communications officer, burst through the heavy steel door without the usual bow. In his hands was a decoded message from Hiroshima, one that would rewrite the Japanese military's understanding of the war. The transmission was brief and broken. Entire city destroyed by single bomb. Blast radius exceeds all previous bombardment. Unknown weapon type, casualties catastrophic, request immediate, and then silence. General Yoshijiro Umezu, chief of the Imperial General Staff, read the message 3 times. His first thought, a massive B-29 raid, perhaps 500 aircraft dropping incendiaries. But the math didn't make sense. Hiroshima was a city of 350,000, spread over 27 square miles. Reports coming in that morning told a different story. Weather reconnaissance confirmed only 3 B-29s had been seen over Hiroshima. 3 planes, not 300. Admiral Soemu Toyoda, chief of the Naval General Staff, stood before the wall-sized map, charting every American asset in the Pacific. His analysts had become experts at predicting American operations, aircraft numbers, bomb loads, damage estimates. Nothing in 3 years of air war suggested that 3 aircraft could erase a city. By 10 a.m., reconnaissance flights trying to reach Hiroshima reported something unprecedented. A mushroom-shaped cloud towering 40,000 feet high, visible 150 miles away. The pilots said it glowed with strange hues, violets and oranges that seemed alive. At 11:30, Foreign Minister Shigenori Togo received the first eyewitness account. A railway official 15 miles from the city described a flash brighter than 1,000 suns, followed by a blast wave that derailed trains and a firestorm where the city had been. At 2 p.m., the Supreme War Council met in total silence. Prime Minister Kantaro Suzuki, who had already survived assassination attempts for suggesting peace, read the reports aloud. His hands trembled slightly as he set the pages down. "Gentlemen," he began, "we must consider what this means."
General Korichika Anami, Minister of War and champion of continued resistance, spoke first. "American deception. They want us to believe they possess impossible weapons. Hiroshima was hit by conventional bombing. Propaganda." Admiral Toyoda interrupted, something unheard of in such a setting. 3 aircraft, Anami-san, not 300. Our radar tracked them. Our observers confirmed them. 3. The silence that followed was heavier than the air in the bunker. For years, Japan's war strategy had been built on one premise. American industrial power could be defeated through Japanese spirit and tactical brilliance. America might have more planes and ships, but Japan would fight with such intensity that American losses would become politically intolerable. Every major decision since Pearl Harbor was rooted in that assumption. When the U.S. produced 300,000 aircraft, Japan told itself that its pilots fought with 10 times the soul. When American shipyards outbuilt U-boats and Axis navies combined, Japan claimed that spiritual resolve would outweigh steel. But a single bomb that could erase a city was something else entirely. It meant the Americans had reached a level of industrial and scientific mastery that rendered Japanese resistance meaningless. It meant America had been fighting a two-ocean war while still innovating weapons beyond imagination. At 4 p.m., Intelligence Officer Colonel Hideaki Satō presented new analysis. His team had tracked U.S. production since 1941. The numbers had always been terrifying and accurate. America had produced 88,000 tanks to Japan's 6,000, 41 carriers to Japan's 15. But Sato's new conclusion broke every assumption.
"If they can destroy entire cities with one bomb," he said softly, "then our calculations no longer apply. They're not fighting the same war we are." Foreign Minister Togo spoke the words everyone feared. "And if they have one such bomb, we must assume they have more." The realization tore through the room. For years, Japan's confidence had rested on myths, beliefs born before Pearl Harbor and cemented by propaganda. In 1941, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, commander of the Combined Fleet, had issued the only accurate warning Japan ever received. "I can run wild for 6 months, maybe a year. After that, I have no confidence at all." Yamamoto had studied in the United States, toured its factories, and understood the math. America's steel output alone exceeded Japan's entire industrial capacity. His warnings had been ignored. Instead, the Army had crafted a fantasy based on 3 pillars. Distance, that vast Pacific distances would cripple U.S. logistics. Morale, that American society was too soft to sustain heavy losses. And tactics, that superior Japanese skill would neutralize numerical inferiority. Each of these assumptions had already failed. Midway, Guadalcanal, Leyte Gulf. But the leadership never admitted it. Defeat after defeat was reinterpreted as bad luck. "If they can destroy entire cities with one bomb," he said softly, "then our calculations no longer apply. They're not fighting the same war we are." Foreign Minister Togo spoke the words everyone feared. "And if they have one such bomb, we must assume they have more." The realization tore through the room. For years, Japan's confidence had rested on myths, beliefs born before Pearl Harbor and cemented by propaganda. In 1941, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, commander of the Combined Fleet, had issued the only accurate warning Japan ever received. "I can run wild for 6 months, maybe a year. After that, I have no confidence at all." Yamamoto had studied in the United States, toured its factories, and understood the math. America's steel output alone exceeded Japan's entire industrial capacity. His warnings had been ignored. Instead, the Army had crafted a fantasy based on 3 pillars. Distance, that vast Pacific distances would cripple U.S. logistics. Morale, that American society was too soft to sustain heavy losses. And tactics, that superior Japanese skill would neutralize numerical inferiority. Each of these assumptions had already failed. Midway, Guadalcanal, Leyte Gulf. But the leadership never admitted it. Defeat after defeat was reinterpreted as bad luck, never structural failure. By August 1945, reality had stripped away all illusions. Yet it wasn't until Hiroshima that the leadership confronted it directly. Satō presented what he called the reality assessment, a forbidden report his team had compiled for months. The figures were devastating.
In 1944 alone, American aircraft production exceeded Japan's total wartime output. U.S. shipyards built escort carriers faster than Japan could train pilots. Ammunition factories produced in a week what Japan made in a month. But the most terrifying numbers were scientific. America employed 130,000 scientists and engineers on military research. Japan had 6,000. American universities, MIT, Harvard, Berkeley, Chicago, had physics departments larger than Japan's entire research establishment. The atomic bomb, Satō explained, required facilities we could never have built. They created entire secret cities, Oak Ridge, Hanford, Los Alamos, consuming more power than Tokyo itself. The project employed 130,000 workers and cost $2 billion, more than our entire 1944 war budget. Togo asked the question that would haunt Japanese historians. How did we not know? We did know, Satō replied. Our intelligence reported it. We intercepted communications about massive research efforts. We documented their scientific mobilization, but every report was dismissed as defeatism. We refused to believe what was true. Admiral Toyoda summed up the revelation in a single sentence. The Americans fought this war with one hand tied behind their back. They had fought Germany and Japan simultaneously, producing more weapons than anyone thought possible, all while maintaining a thriving civilian economy. They are not merely stronger, they are operating on another level of civilization.
That statement marked the first real understanding of what Japan faced. For years, Tokyo propaganda painted Americans as decadent and weak, dependent on machines. The atomic bomb proved the opposite. Their machines were born of intellect, organization, and scale beyond comprehension. By August 7th, reconnaissance flights confirmed the unimaginable. Photographs showed 4 square miles of Hiroshima reduced to featureless earth, not rubble, nothing. Structures vaporized. Everything within a mile of the blast simply gone. Analysts compared the devastation. The Tokyo firebombing in March 1945, the most destructive conventional raid in history, had required 334 bombers and 1,600 tons of incendiaries over 3 hours. Hiroshima's annihilation had taken 1 bomb, 1 plane, 1 second. That same night, Moscow delivered a new blow. The Soviet Union declared war on Japan, effective August 9th. Stalin's entry destroyed Japan's last hope of negotiating peace through Soviet mediation. By August 9th, as the second atomic bomb fell on Nagasaki, the Supreme War Council finally admitted what they had long denied. Japan was finished. Admiral Mitsumasa Yonai said it plainly. The Americans can now erase our cities one by one indefinitely. We cannot defend against what we cannot see. Our defenses, our aircraft, our plans, they mean nothing. Colonel Umezu added, if they can destroy us without invasion, our strategy collapses. They can end Japan without ever landing. The Emperor's private comment that evening was recorded by his secretary. The unendurable must be endured. That phrase became the heart of Japan's surrender. On August 10th, Tokyo sent its conditional acceptance of the Potsdam Declaration through Swiss channels. The Americans replied with deliberate vagueness about the Emperor's fate, enough to split Japan's leadership once again. Hardliners argued to fight on, not to win, but to die with honor. But the war was over. The rest was denial. When the surrender was signed aboard the USS Missouri on September 2, 1945, Japan's leaders stood face to face with the scale of what they had misunderstood. Foreign Minister Mamoru Shigemitsu later wrote, "The harbor was filled with American ships as far as one could see. Aircraft covered the sky. This display was not a threat,
It was a statement of reality. General Umezu noted that the Missouri, a battleship built in a single American yard in less time than it took Japan to plan one operation, symbolized everything they had failed to grasp. American occupation reports revealed the truth in numbers. The U.S. had produced 88,000 tanks, 2.4 million trucks, 17 million rifles, and 41 billion rounds of ammunition, all while its civilians lived better than Japan's citizens had in peacetime. Colonel Satō's final intelligence summary, titled "Why We Lost," concluded with chilling honesty. "We lost this war in December 1941, the day we attacked an enemy we did not understand. Every battle afterward merely proved the math. They had 10 to 20 times our production in every category. Their scientists outnumbered our scholars. Their resources were infinite. We believed spirit could overcome steel. We were wrong."
Former Prime Minister Suzuki later admitted, "We thought we were fighting merchants. We were fighting the most productive civilization in human history. They didn't choose between butter and guns. They made both in quantities we couldn't imagine." Details of the Manhattan Project eventually reached Japanese scientists. 130,000 personnel, $2 billion, entire cities devoted to a single weapon. The realization was crushing. Admiral Toyoda's 1946 reflection summed up Japan's transformation. "We began the war believing democracy made America weak, diversity made them divided, and wealth made them soft. We ended it understanding that democracy fueled innovation, diversity created talent, and wealth built power we could never match. Every assumption we held was not merely wrong, but the exact opposite of truth." For Japan's generals, it was more than defeat. It was a revelation. Some, like Anami, chose death. Others, like Yonai, became advocates for permanent demilitarization. Most were left to confront how completely they had deceived themselves. Historians later uncovered what those officers already knew. Japan had been defeated long before Hiroshima. Intelligence had been accurate. Leadership had refused to believe it. Truth had become treason. Optimism became doctrine. In the end, the atomic bomb didn't cause Japan's defeat. It only made the truth undeniable. General Umezu said it best during occupation interviews in 1947. "We lost because we never understood our enemy. We imagined they shared our limits when they did not. The atomic bomb was not their greatest weapon. It was their proof. We learned too late that courage cannot replace chemistry, that spirit cannot outweigh steel, and that determination means nothing against an enemy who possesses both and the means to give them form."